who actually attains enlightenment in this lifetime, they don't have to cross that stage of bardo. They get enlightenment before that state. So if one had the instructions on the reality of one's mind, of mind-pointing instructions, and practiced it, then at that point, when all the emotions stops, one will be able to recognize the reality and become a Buddha. Such people, such individuals are individuals with a high capacity of realization, a high caliber. So after that, when one recovers from this kind of unconscious state, they start to abide in the state of the ground primordial consciousness, or primordial wisdom, what the gnosis of the ground. Now, if one has practiced the trekche aspect of Dzogchen practice, trekche, which literally means something like cutting through practice, which has to do with the mind-pointing instructions and meditation on the reality of the mind. If one has done such practices very effectively in this life, one would be able to recognize the state of this ground gnosis, or this primordial wisdom of the ground, and one will get liberated. If one doesn't recognize this state of if one doesn't recognize this wisdom of the ground, this ground primordial wisdom, then one starts to one starts to get confused, and they start to go worse. So after this stage, if somebody has done the tegel, the transience, the crossing over practice of Dzogchen, then one would experience the appearances, the empirical signs of the tegel practice at that point. And it is at this stage that if one had the internal practices, in the internal capacity to manifest, one will see the appearances of the 5 family Buddhas. First one will see the sky blue light which is blue in color, in center of 5 other different color rays. And that is like the blessing of the Buddha Vairochana, the Buddha in the center. Now if one had with a strong if one is accustomed to the practice, then one would be able to recognize the Buddhas as one's own personal deity, and thereby one would be able to get liberated. And after that, one experiences the white light, which is the ray emanating through the blessings from the heart of the Buddha Vajrasattva. And if one recognizes the Buddha as such, then one will be able to liberate. And after that, one will have experienced the light which is yellow in color, which is associated with the Buddha Ratna Sambhava, Rinchen Junglen. And if one recognizes that, one will again be liberated.
Was a marble, or was a trot, Sambu, Tile Nasam Yagat, no other appointment.
And after that, there is the light which is red in color from the Buddha Amitabha, which, if one recognizes, one will again get liberated. Now, all these rays, Rinpoche emphasizes, is extremely radiant and have the 5 different circles of light in different colors to indicate the 5 family Buddhas in all of them. And after the red, then there is the light which is green in color of the Buddha Amoga Siddhi, and it will be in the same manner. And if one recognizes that, one will get liberated. And after the 5th one, there is also a possibility, or it happens that there will be all the 5 different lights in 5 different colors appearing at the same time. So with these 5 different lights from the 5 different Buddha families, if one has already practiced properly during the lifetime, one would be able to recognize them, and also the appearance would be longer. But for those who are not accustomed to it, they wouldn't last. So for those who are not, who haven't practiced during their lifetime, these appearances would be very momentary. They would disappear instantly.
There are also the sentence the young year mado touched chudung a conale maret, the Yenao, the to be told
the experience or the appearance of such lights are common, or are they appear to all the sentient beings. It's not just to the people who have practiced that they appear, but the capacity of recognizing it, the capabilities of recognizing it and elongating it is totally dependent on how much one is used to it through practice. So for those who are not used to the practice, the appearances would be just a flash for an instant, and they wouldn't be able to grasp anything. So if we talk about a person who is dead, these appearances, the experiences that we have talked about until now, occurs during the first week. Then after that stage, the appearances are totally dependent on the individual propensities. But generally speaking, it is said that there will be the peaceful deities of the death, of the peaceful 40 peaceful deities appearing. So the peaceful deities appear during the third week, and after that until the sixth week the wrathful deities would appear. But at that stage there is so much difficulty in getting liberated. Because when one encounters or has this experience of the wrathful deities, they are very much like the messengers of the death. They are wrathful and terrifying, so one wouldn't be able to see them as deities. It is just like the case where if there is a horde of robbers coming into the house, and then there are also some other gang trying to protect you, you won't be able to recognize who is who, and you'll be scared of both. In the same way, when you have this experience with wrathful deities, although they are deities to protect you, because of their appearance one would be terrified and wouldn't actually recognize them as deities. And if it is true that if one recognizes the deities as deities, it is possible to get liberated, but it is difficult to recognize them as deities in such circumstances. But for those individuals who practice very well in this lifetime and are accustomed to such appearances, it would be very easy and good for them. It's the habituation which becomes effective. But if one is not used to such appearances, then such wrathful appearances wouldn't be of any help. But because of the karmic propensities, such appearances will definitely appear to all the sentient beings. It is taught that the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities are already inherent in one's own body right now. So when the body dissolves at the time of the death, they all sort of get projected, and therefore we get the appearance of the peaceful and wrathful deities. If suppose that I were to die at 3 today, then I would be having all this experience of the bardo. If one died at 3 p.m. on Sunday, then the next Sunday, exactly the same time, one would again have the same repetition of this experience. And for 49 days, it is said that every week. After every week, one would have this appearance, this experience. So, for Tibetans, when they have funeral rites for 49 days and always observe the 7th day of since the death, it is because of this reason that they do it. So at that particular point, that weekly point, if one does some rituals or reads some text, and if there is a strong link, if that dead soul, that individual could receive the message, if there is a link, then there will be some impact on the dead person. It is after the projection of the different lights that we have talked about as the two different vital essences move and coalesce. Now, at that time you fall unconscious, and until that stage most of the people, ordinary people, wouldn't even know whether they are dead or not, and it's only after that stage that one has to experience the suffering of the death. So the individuals who gains consciousness again, the consciousness which comes back from that unconscious state, wouldn't still know that they are dead, and therefore when one sees one's family members or relatives or friends, because one is dead, one would think one would know that one is dead, but other people, one would think, are ignoring one. So one would get extremely frustrated for not being able to interact properly. Other people would be seen to be mourning the death of the person, but the person would try to prove or show that he is not dead. And so in this way the consciousness of the dead person not recognizing that it is dead, sometimes you would have all kinds of experience of suffering, that sometimes because of the dissolution of the element of the earth, it would be having feelings or experiences such like being pressed under a huge mountain or under some landslide. And because of the dissolution of the water element, he would get this experience of being carried away by rivers, of drowning in the river. Because of the dissolution of the fire element, you would get this extremely hot sensations, as if he is being burnt alive. And because of the dissolution of the air, you would get this experience of being very light and being blown away and being crushed. So one then gets this experience of seeing all these external elements as being destructive to oneself. If one hears sound, then the sound effect would be such that it would be as if there are 1,000 lightning or thunder at the same time, and as if one's eardrums would burst. And it is after these kind of experiences that one gradually sinks into oneself that one might be already dead. And when the fact that one has already been dead sinks in, the fear and the suffering increases. After 3 weeks, one until the third week, until the end of the third week, one would have the feeling of having the same body as one had during the lifetime. The living people won't see him, but he gets the feeling that he still has the same body. Then after the end of the third week, after the 21st day since the death, he will have the feeling of whatever body he is supposed to acquire in the future life, and the feeling of the future life will become stronger for him. Then there are also the lights, the 6 different lights associated with the 6 different realms of sentient beings that will appear.
Danku, Marbo, Tuka, or Tendesi Kadona to the carriers. Was there Mebaki the carriers?
And there will be these lights which wouldn't have any radiance, but which has these colors of white, green, yellow, dark blue, and so on. When the immensely radiant light associated with the 5 family Buddhas appear, one gets frightened and would avoid it. But when the rather dim light associated with the 6 different realms of the birth appear, one would be accepting it. One would be one would be able to cope up with it. If one were to take rebirth in the realm of the gods and the realm of the human beings, one would get this experience of walking on 2 feet. So for the gods and human beings, one has the feeling of walking upright. But if one were to take rebirth in the demigod, sort of anti-god realm, and the realm of the animals, then one would have the experience of walking across on 4 limbs.
Yirado Nyarva Lasoba Sehiana, then she two Sado Tungoshindo in Noa Chagre.
And if one were to take birth in the hungry ghost realm and the hell realms, one would have the experience of walking upside down with one's head on the ground.
Tendency, they are also lay carrying Titoni, the Senate also again, it is remarking the launching of Rogi service.
So at that stage, then it is dependent on one's own previous karma. Depending on one's karma, one will take the track to these 6 different realms.
Then I got in Conchola Sorato, Sandro Lasso, and the Lama Sorato, Tendesina, Tabu, in a Tecalico.
However, even at such stage, if one is conscious enough to make prayers to the Buddhas, to one's Guru, one would be able to liberate from the lower realms and the bad results, but it is extremely difficult then. Because there is a practice of blocking all the other tracks, all the other ways or roads to the realms, non-human realms, and of diverting the consciousness towards a human rebirth. But it is a very difficult state.
So, control it from the sound on the what say at the
at that point, it is extremely important and to have faith in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, his teachings, and the Sangha, and to pray to supplicate one's Guru.
Now, Papa Shere di la Soba, Sonji Sonsen Mamboji, Tervilan, Number de Mambo Shangiris.
There is definitely a lot of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such as Avalokiteshvara, who would come to help in order to lead you towards a happier rebirth.
Yena Konambi Tuji Shellavton, Ron Suzuki, Deba Begin Derayana, Pento here, Nato Demena, Pento Ricari. However, if there is a strong link between the deity and oneself, through having faith in the deity, when the deity shows compassion, then one would be able to be benefited. But if there isn't such a link, it would be very difficult to be of any help. It's not just the case that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, is precious jewels, don't have compassion. They do, but when one doesn't have the faith in them and the trust in them, their compassion cannot work. If, for example, there were no fish in the river, trying to go fishing and throwing the hook wouldn't help, wouldn't get a fish. If there is a fish, then the hook would stick to it and one would get the fish. So the compassion of the Buddhas are always there, like the analogous to the hook. But if one doesn't have the faith, which is like the fish, then there wouldn't be any link between the compassion and oneself. In the past, there's a story that
Tertun Migyur Doje, who is the discoverer of the Namche cycle, has been down to the hell to help the sentient beings there. There are some sentient beings who he could help, he said, but most of them can't be helped.
Manila soba, Zungala soba, down, the coastal council only. Dandako Guya carried, not just a Guya carried, so don't let you know in Borchia.
When he started showing compassion by reciting spells of mantras such as the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, then a lot of the sentient beings would start attacking him, accusing him of invoking evil spells on them, and they would accuse him of doing something bad to them through those spells.
Mani yon de huge chambers of them, I said, some he did God is there's a phantom, what chair is a phantom.
So he said that when he could recite the mantra of Avalokiteshvara in tunes loudly, one could help some or a little bit to these hell beings, but it's extremely difficult to do any great benefit.
Sato Tangi Zungan Borche Mosule, Nari Membandulin, Tergadi, Metaji Nasum,
and he said that getting exasperated and frustrated with the reaction he got for singing the mantras to the beings, he just set the mantras on rocks and soil on earth, and then put the soil onto the flames in the hell realm, and that helped reduce the heat or blow out the fire. It is said that the Avalokiteshvara Buddha has made a promise that he will liberate all the sentient beings without even leaving one sentient being behind in the cyclic existence. Going down to this mountain, the Drudzin Potala mountain, which is attributed to the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, he recited 100 billion mantras, his own mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. And he has managed to take all these ancient beings from certain world realms for 3 times. So having emptied the world for 3 times, he came back again thinking that there wouldn't be any sentient beings left by now, but then in fact he found more.
Too humanly, Aka Sanjay come the Tomba say,
that completely discouraged him and disappointed him, and even made him think that it's probably impossible to take all the sentient beings to enlightenment.
So his
promise that he made initially to enlighten all the sentient beings was lost, or it became, he couldn't keep the promise. And because he broke his promise, he had this promise that he'll liberate all the sentient beings, and then he again gave way to the thought that he can't actually do that, and because of that breaking his promise, as a sort of retribution, his head split into 100 parts and his body into 1,000 parts. So he was suffering from pain as his body and head split, and then the Buddha Amitabha came down to see him and said, aren't you having this pain because you broke your samaya, because you broke your promise? So and then Janardji wept because he Avalokiteshvara wept because he broke his promise, and 2 teardrops trickled down, and those teardrops then manifested as the green and the white tara. The green and the white tara, and then it was and those 2 taras were assigned the task of liberating all the sentient beings. And his head, which had split into 100 parts, Amitabha blessed it and created 11 heads, turned them into 11 heads, and that's why you have the Avalokiteshvara with 11 heads. And Amitabha also blessed and turned his body, which split into 1,000 parts, into 1,000 arms with eyes on them. And then Avalokiteshvara manifested from his 1,000 eyes 1,000 so the 1,000, through the 1,000 hands he manifested 1,000 universal monarchs, so universal kings, emperors, and then through the 1,000 eyes on the palms of those hands he manifested the 1,000 Buddhas. So in this manner he has been serving or benefiting the world. So one could say that it is very important for us to practice from one's own side, to practice Dharma and to have confidence in the law of cause and effect. Because I'm a Buddhist teacher, I talk a lot about Buddhism. However, I do have a fervent hope that what I say would be of some help and benefit to others, and that it would instill the altruistic intention of benefiting others. Whoever we may be, we all want happiness. And of the happinesses, temporary happiness is not very good. being attached to this world and all the temporary pleasures one gets from this world aren't any good. They won't last ultimately. However, although these worldly goals that we seek aren't really good, because of the karmic tendencies, one is accustomed to see the worldly affairs, worldly activities as sort of easy, as something that is good, something that wouldn't disappoint and discourage us. Even if we toil on and since the birth until we die, we never get this feeling of remorse and disappointment with carrying on the worldly affairs. But if we engage in dharmic practice, even if we practice for 1 hour, we think we have done a long time. That's our reality, that's our nature. If we keep such nature, it's difficult to attain any ultimate happiness. There is nothing ultimate that we can really seek in this cyclic existence. But if we practice Dharma, then there is something ultimate, an enlightenment which we can achieve.
Thank you.
So that's about it. That's all. I don't have much to say.
Okay. Good night.